I made the world's smallest, the tiniest, the most minuscule cupcake that has ever dwelled on this earth, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did it and how you can break my record for yourself. So the world record was set in 2009, and it was 3 centimeters high by 1.5 centimeters in diameter. This is pretty small, but definitely beatable. It was a bit smaller than this Darth Vader Lego figurine here, but I think with a custom mold, we can beat it. Let's get started, though, by making our cupcake batter. So this is going to be a pretty standard cupcake batter. We're going to cream together some butter and some sugar, but we don't need to worry too much about getting air into this. We're going to have a special mold that's going to give it plenty of lift. What we are going to do here is add some extra sugar to make sure that this gets extra structure compared to your standard cupcake recipe that might otherwise not hold up quite so well in a small one. We need the structure. So bring this together using whatever you have at your disposal. Electric mixer, great. Spatula, probably soften the butter a lot more beforehand than I did. Hands, it'll work. You don't need the air too much here. I'll leave all the exact measurements for everything in the description down below, and you're welcome to use these or make modifications to try and make something even smaller. So we'll bring this together after some amount of excruciatingly long times of using my hands to try to bring the butter together. I'll spare you the entirety of this. But anyways, we get it together smoothly, and we're able to move on to the next step, which is going to be to add the rest of our wet ingredients here. So we're going to add our eggs and our vanilla. I'll make sure it's fully smooth in between each one here. Normally, some lumps are good, right? They're more tender in cupcakes if you leave it with a couple lumps here and there, and you can deal with that. The problem is with a tiny cupcake like what we're going to do, we need everything to be very smooth or else it'll throw off the entire texture. So you'll see that I will work this particularly heavily, even at the loss of air or potential development of gluten. So I'll bring this together fully with the eggs, and then I'll do the same with the vanilla extract. And listen, I know what you're thinking. You're about to say, hey Eric, isn't milk a wet ingredient here? Shouldn't you be adding it now? Well, to that I say we need to alternate the milk and the flour to make sure that we get no lumps. So you'll see that I do this in pieces. Part of the milk, part of the flour, and then we'll bring it together with each one fully and make sure that there are no lumps before going forwards. Yes, there's going to be more gluten here. Yes, this is going to take longer, and yes, this is absolutely critical if you want to be able to consistently churn out tiny cupcakes. Otherwise, you're going to need a few tries to make sure that you don't get any sort of clumps of butter or just clumps of flour that make up like half of the cupcake, which really isn't a great experience either to eat it or for the structural properties of the cupcake itself. So this takes quite a while to sort of bring together and make sure that there are absolutely no lumps. Spend your time here. This is the critical piece, so really focus in on this. Once we're done with this, we're going to move on to doing a test batch here with our mini cupcake tins. Now, you're going to say, hey, Eric, these aren't tiny, these aren't world record. Absolutely, but I want to make sure that these bake absolutely perfectly. There's always variation in terms of the environment, in terms of the batch, and you want to make sure that everything is baking smoothly before you go into the tiny zone, because most of the molds that you're going to do here are probably bespoke with aluminum foil, and you're going to completely lose them between every tiny cupcake. So save your effort there. It's best to bake off a smaller batch just to make sure that everything's working pretty well. Also makes for some nice frosting practice as well later on. And these baked up pretty well. I didn't see a ton of lift, which is good. I know that the tins for the tiny ones are going to cause even more lift. And it also showed a good degree of structure. There was absolutely no collapsing of the cupcakes, even once they're taken out of the oven. That's what you're looking for here to know that it's ready to go into a tiny cupcake mold. So let's make that mold here. The first step with this is to find out what you're going to shape it with. I tried a number of things here, and I will show you the entire montage of failure. But ultimately, I found out that basically what I was going for was about half of the size of a AAA battery. So I ended up using a prop AAA battery that I had from an online order way back when. Don't do this with a real AAA battery, as that can be dangerous. And plus, I've already set the record using a AAA battery. You really want something that's flat, and a Bic pen would work also pretty well and would probably beat the record. So after this crafting session that ended up resulting in this tiny little tinfoil cup, we got this filled up with batter and baked it off. This is not that sped up. It took only about 2 minutes from start to finish, and going any longer would be bad. It poofed really fast. It was practically volcanic. So keep an eye on these things. Don't think it's going to take 12 minutes to bake off, otherwise you're going to be running for your smoke detector somewhere around the 5th minute. All right, so let's let this cool completely. You really don't want to be working with anything sticky around the tinfoil. It's just not going to come out. So let's make our frosting here. We're going to throw in butter. We're going to throw in some cream cheese. We're going to throw in powdered sugar, vanilla extract, and we're going to get this all mixing up really nicely. Once we put this on high speed here, we're going to add in some food coloring. Hang on, before I turn this frosting blue and show you the world record, why don't you go click that like button, turn it blue, and help me make more videos like this. Now, I actually chose blueberry juice. I think it gives a really nice lavender color once it's sort of all brought together. I like how the fruitiness complements the cream cheese, and I'll leave the recipe for this down below as well, but I really like sort of a tangy blueberry frosting to complement these sort of very sweet vanilla cupcake. Normally I wouldn't go cream cheese with a cupcake, but in this case, because we use so much extra sugar to ensure the structure, I felt the tanginess was really needed to balance this out. So let's get frosting. This is our tiny cupcake, and after much struggle, I managed to extricate it from its aluminum foil cup, and we are able to get forward with frosting it. This is really simple. If you're like me and forgot a piping bag, it turns out not to matter for the tiny ones because you cannot get any sort of swirl on this anyways. You're really just going for a tiny little dot of frosting. And here you are. These actually taste really good, and it's a world record as well, so might as well enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please go try it out and let me know how you get on in the comments below.